Welcome to the 10-Minute Treasurer. My name is Jeff Pospisil, and in this video I'm going to look at what if your church forgot to file with the Secretary of State. So my recommendation is that most churches, by the way, are incorporated as nonprofits in their state, and in most states you have to file an annual report with the Secretary of State to show that you're still up and running. You normally have to fill in on this report your officers and who the agent is, and in North Dakota and South Dakota it's also a $10 fee. And I'm not just talking about forgot it and missed it by a week or a month or anything like that. I just did that actually this year with one of my clients. And so instead of paying a $10 fee, I had to pay a $15 fee because I was late. But what if you forget so bad that the corporation is involuntarily dissolved? So that's how bad we're talking about. It's been a year, 2 years since you last filed, and now what do you do? So the first thing I'm going to recommend is that you go ahead and go to your Secretary of State's website and try to find your church. I'm going to include the links to the North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota Secretary of State websites. It might give you a head start, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult than you think because the Secretary of State does not use Google. It's going to be pretty picky in the search results. And what makes it even harder is that some of our churches, we never did update our corporate names. So they might be whatever, First Methodist Episcopal Church, or First Evangelical United Brethren Church, or maybe they even misspelled United, so it's the First Untied Methodist Church. You're going to find all kinds of weird stuff out there that'll make it even a little bit more challenging for some of us. This happens to be the South Dakota State Secretary website, and what I did is I searched based on United Methodist, and you get two options on that site. You could choose begins with or contains that. So I chose contains United Methodist, and I got a bunch of results. And in South Dakota, you're going to see three different statuses. You're going to see good standing, dissolved, or canceled. And these two that happen to be dissolved and canceled, I know that they are closed churches, so that's not a problem. But I did go ahead and do a little bit more searching, and I did find some churches that are active, but they are not in good standing. So let's look at what those look like. So the first one here happens to be Ethan United Methodist Church, a great church just south of here. And the last time they filed an annual report was 1999, and that is why their status is canceled. And the Secretary of State says the next annual report we want from you is the 2002 one. By the way, you see Diane's name here. I'm not at all trashing her. Again, this can happen to the best of us, and sometimes there's unusual circumstances where I had a treasurer once move away, and they just forgot to tell the next treasurer about this filing, and the next treasurer didn't understand what it was, and so they just filed it away and thought somebody else was going to take care of it. Anyway, it happens, and so I'm not trying to shame anyone by any degree. So another one here is the Agar United Methodist Church, and this one is dissolved. And again, the last annual report that they did was 2011, and so they're asking for the 2012 one. So that's what it looks like, and it does give you a lot of good information here. So if Julie Yoakum is still around, they could ask her, or whatever. Maybe it'll shed some light, even seeing some of this information on what's going on. Here is the North Dakota Secretary of State website, so a screenshot from here, and you're going to see a little bit of difference. So you're going to see good standing and not good standing, and then they also have this other one. Are they active or are they inactive? And there's even two different kinds of inactive. There's involuntary inactive and voluntary active. So this inactive voluntary one, and they're still in good standing, which is interesting, but it's a church that closed, and they went through the proper process to close it. So they filed articles of dissolution. You have this one that's inactive, involuntary, not in good standing. That is an active church that it's been too long since they last filed that they've been involuntarily dissolved. And then you have this other one it's an active church, and they are not in good standing because they're late with their annual report. And if we went ahead and clicked on that one, what we'd see is some of the details. You could see they sent the notice to the registered agent. It was due on February 1st, and it just didn't get filed yet. So if I went ahead and clicked on it again, you could also then see that that the report was due on February 1st, but they didn't file it, and so they sent another notice on February 15th. And likely when John gets this notice, then he's going to file that annual report and pay 15 bucks instead of 10 bucks. So that's just what it looks like on the North Dakota side. So the last one is the Minnesota Secretary of State, and I included the search part of this screenshot just because it was a little bit different. So I did do United Methodist contains, and then you have to choose between active or inactive. So it might double the length of time it takes you to find your church, but I just chose inactive. And these are the top United Methodists that came up, and I clicked on Adrian United Methodist Church, which happens to be an active church. And I could see that they're listed as inactive, but they are a worshiping church. And the last time that they renewed was prior to 2018, so they are behind by at least 4 years on their filings. So now we're going to look at how do you actually get back to being an active and in good standing nonprofit corporation in each state. So the one thing I really liked about Minnesota is that once you find your church, and here's that Adrian United Methodist Church, all you have to do is hit that. There's a button there that says File, Amend, Renewal. So you click on that, and up comes this renewal and amendment thing. And if you already have a sign in or not, you can just click on that, which is right here, or you can even create a sign in, and it doesn't cost you anything is what it looks like. So that's really cool, is you can go ahead and it makes it super easy to get active and in good standing right from the Secretary of State's website. That's not the case in South Dakota and North Dakota. The next easiest one, I think, is the Secretary of State of South Dakota. And here's Ethan United Methodist. And let's just say Ethan had only been a couple of years. Maybe they missed 2 or 3 years. And they still had the login information. They could just go ahead and click that login and file those reports and pay $15 instead of the regular 10. If it's been a long time, like with Ethan, I had a church that it had been 22 years since they last filed. And yeah, then it was a pain. They had to go through every year for 20 years of filings. But what's your alternative? I mean, you could start up a new corporation, and that may have problems as well because the land and building and everything is titled to the old one. So anyway, I usually would recommend it's best to go back and just file the old annual reports. And here is the actual guidance from the South Dakota Secretary of State, where if you are a nonprofit corporation that's been dissolved, you have to not only file all the old delinquent annual reports, like I just said, then there's also a reinstatement fee of $30. So it's not going to be fiscally prohibitive, but if it's been 20 years, it's going to take some time. So, and lastly, we come to North Dakota. And lastly, we have North Dakota, and they're kind of the sticklers. They don't like to make it nice and easy for those nonprofits that relax on their filing. They want you to learn a lesson, it seems like, because if you get involuntarily dissolved, this last paragraph here says that you have 1 year to make it right before we really make it hard on you. 1 year to file for reinstatement, file your past due annual report. But after that year, you're going to have to get a court order, and you're going to have to bring that to the Secretary of State and file your late annual reports and everything else. So that is a lot more difficult than the other states where they let you do it nice and clean and easy, most of it online. So. All right, I hope that was helpful, and hopefully if you find yourself in that jam where you find that you've been involuntarily dissolved as a corporation, this gives you a little bit of guidance on how to clean it up or even to just verify it. So All right, God bless you till next time.